Yes, I'm here with Ian again, and we're continuing our Robin Hood series. This one is a little further in the Howard Pyle book called How Little John Lived at the Sheriff's House, and we'll kind of do a little summary and then discuss the story.
Yep.
Uh, so Little John won a contest, and so the sheriff kind of made him an offer to join his group, and kind of a similar offer to the one Robin Hood gives his men. And um, Little John joins him, becomes his favorite, his right hand man, and then so we have some little group dynamics here, and he ends up kind of going back to Robin Hood after, of course, some feasting and some fighting.
Of course.
So, so yeah, Little John had been with the sheriff for about 6 months, and he kind of got fat and lazy. At the beginning of this story, the sheriff is out with some nobles, some bigwigs of the town, and they're hunting for deer. And the sheriff thinks back to Little John and wishes he was there as a good hunter and his sort of favorite companion. And then the story goes back to where Little John is, back at the sheriff's castle, and he's just sleeping. And even though the sun's kind of getting up there, and he wakes up and he hears the bugle call of the hunting, and he kind of thinks back to how he used to be with his old companions, Will Stutely, his favorite, and Robin Hood, and all of them, and kind of feels a little nostalgic. And now that it's getting warm, the weather's getting warm again, and everything, he kind of feels like maybe he should be out there doing these manly sports and everything. So he goes over to the larder, the pantry, and it's guarded by this steward. And he's kind of a very fat man, kind of has the keys jangling on his belt there. And Little John asks him, for some food, and he tells Little John, "Go get it yourself." And they kind of have a little exchange. Little John tries the door, and it's locked, of course. And so he just breaks open the pantry. The steward goes over, tries to prevent him from doing that. Physically, Little John hits him, knocks him out. And the cook across the courtyard hears this. And so he goes running over with, of course, like a bird on a spit or something like that in his hand. And the steward offers him some wine and some money or something to kind of take care of the problem of Little John as he sees it. The steward also doesn't like Little John because he's jealous of how close Little John is to the sheriff. Um, and so the cook, so the steward runs away. The cook draws his sword. Steward doesn't like the look of violence, look of the sword. Um, and the steward tells Little John, "Okay, we're going to fight over this now." Little John kind of looks at him, looks at the food in the pantry, and goes, I mean, if we're gonna, one of us is gonna go to heaven by the end of the day today anyway, we might as well go the full belly, huh? How about? So then they go and kind of eat together, and of course they have this merry big feast, and they're kind of eyeing each other as they're eating, sticking their fingers into the pie or whatever, and they're kind of thinking, "Man, this guy's like as the book says, the lustiest guy I've ever set eyes on." So they eat and eat until they're bursting, and then it's about time to do their thing, and they both sing a song. So it's a little bit of a ritual kind of thing. Of course, there's the songs are kind of about longing and suffering and companions, and then coming back to your companions and everything. At least Little John's song is, and losing a love and all that stuff. Uh, And then so then they fight, and it's a little reminiscent of the fight of the fight between Robin Hood and Little John when those two met. Uh, and they go back and forth for an hour. No one's winning. They're both exhausted. They lean on their swords, and they kind of, still looking at each other as kind of growing admiration, companionship, and they kind of Little John sort of points out or excuse me, the cook sort of points out, well, why am I even trying to fight this guy? I mean, this guy's like my better friend than this weaselly little steward anyway, and wasn't really worth it to be paid 10 shillings or whatever the guy offered. And so Little John again kind of negotiates with him, and he's like, "Hey, we're like the two strongest guys here. Why are we fighting each other? Why don't we just take this food, take some of the silver of the sheriffs, and be off on our merry way and join Robin Hood, so he can kind of, have his cake and eat it too." And the cook agrees, and so they go back to Robin Hood with all this stolen loot, and they tell them what's been going on. Everybody's happy to see Little John, but Robin Hood is a little grave, as the story says, I think. And he doesn't like how Little John has sort of unjust, in the telling of this story anyway, how Little John has unjustly taken things from the sheriff. The sheriff hasn't really done anything at this point to deserve this kind of retribution. Uh, Robin Hood kind of tallies up what they've taken from the sheriff or other nobles, and that was sort of tit for tat, something like that. It was in his mind justified, but he's kind of even with the sheriff now, I guess, and this is going too far. There may be something about him stealing food from the sheriff too, which is a little bit different than just stealing the silver. Um, so Little John, kind of decides, on the spot to make it up, and so he goes out to where the sheriff and the nobles are hunting the deer, hunting the hart, and he lures the sheriff over to where Robin Hood and his men are by saying there's this big herd of deer that I was afraid to spook, and you can come because if we bring all these people over, they'll hear us coming and they'll run away. So he kind of goes with them, and then here's the deer and the herd that I was talking to you about, and it's Robin Hood and his men. Sheriff, of course, downcast, doesn't know what to do. They make fun of him a little bit. He's kind of like looking down. And then basically, the Robin Hood kind of has him drink with him a little bit and, drink with the sheriff's own silver and everything, kind of a little bit of a humiliation or a little bit of a kind of sign of dominance or something. And but then he tells him, this is not what we're really about. When I've stolen from nobles and fat friars and on the road or whatever, it's because they've been kind of doing that to the people and whatnot. And this is not what we're really about. So gives them back the silver, and so the sheriff, in being paid back, hauls back this big bag of silver back to the group of nobles he was originally hunting with, and still humiliated, but kind of nothing is really taken from him materially this time. Of course, his pride is hurt again, whatever ego he has left, and he kind of sulks back to. I don't know if he keeps going hunting or, if he's maybe thinks that's enough drama for a day. But yeah, so that was how Little John ends his tenure with the sheriff.
Yeah. Yeah, spot on.